Did you know that about 100 years ago, Boston was flooded with over 2 million gallons of molasses?
The streets were flooded and people drowned in a sticky, cookie-scented river. Hey friends, welcome back to the Encyclopedia Ange channel, where I'm no expert, just endlessly curious about everything. Just a quick note that if you're liking what you're seeing, subscribing really does help me. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on what topics you'd like me to cover in the future. So let's get into it. Imagine walking through Boston on a cold January afternoon. You hear a low rumble, like a train approaching, but there are no tracks here. You look up and a wall of molasses, yes, syrup, 25 feet high, is barreling towards you at 35 miles per hour. This is the story of the Great Molasses Flood of 1919, the day that Boston drowned in sugar. It all starts with a giant tank on Boston's waterfront in the North End. The USIA company was making industrial alcohol, the kind that you'd use for explosives during World War I. And the key ingredient, if you can believe it, was molasses. So in 1915, they built this massive steel tank, 50 feet tall, 90 feet wide, that could hold over 2 million gallons of molasses. But there was one problem. It was rushed. No blueprints, no engineer ever signed off on it. Workers noticed that it leaked from the very start. Kids in the neighborhood used to bring cups to scoop up the sticky molasses that dripped down the sides. When there was complaints, the company just painted it brown to hide the leaks. But on January 15, 1919, it was just after lunchtime in Boston's North End. The air was crisp, around 40 degrees, unusually warm for winter. Inside the tank, things were getting weird. Just a few days earlier, a fresh shipment of warm molasses arrived from the Caribbean and was pumped in on top of the cold molasses that had been sitting there for months. The warm and cold layers expanded at different rates, building up internal pressure. And at 12:30 p.m., the metal walls could not take it anymore. Witnesses said they heard what sounded like a machine gun, rapid popping as the rivets shot off one by one. Then, an explosive roar. The tank split open. In an instant, 2.3 million gallons of molasses exploded into the streets. A wave 25 feet high rushed out at 35 miles per hour, faster than anyone could run. It smashed everything in its path. Houses, freight cars, wagons, and people. A city block disappeared under syrup. Rescue efforts were chaos. The molasses was so thick that horses just drowned where they stood. And people who tried to save others, they got stuck themselves. The Boston Post described it as a dark brown tide that crushed buildings like matchsticks. Firefighters and police waded through waist-deep goo, trying to pull the survivors out. Even the Navy got involved using boats to rescue people trapped in the sticky mess. By nightfall, 21 people were dead. Many had suffocated, others were hit by debris or drowned in syrup. It took weeks to clean up the mess. Crews used salt water from the nearby harbor and sand to absorb the goo. They had to scrape molasses off cobblestone, horses, and even from the harbor's surface. For months afterward, everything was sticky. Sidewalks, telephones, shoes, even the harbor water reportedly ran brown until summer. Locals said that on hot days, you could still smell molasses decades later. After the flood, the company tried to blame anarchists, claiming that they had bombed the tank. This was the Red Scare era, after all. But investigators found no evidence of sabotage. Instead, engineers discovered the real culprit: bad design. The steel was too thin, it was half as thick as it should have been, and the rivets were brittle and poorly fitted. In other words, the tank was doomed from the start. The company ended up paying $1 million in damages, which is about $17 million today. This is one of the first major class action lawsuits in U.S. history. It changed how building safety regulations were written. Engineers now had to sign off on large construction projects. Today, the site is a peaceful park with a little baseball diamond. No towering tank, no syrup, just a small plaque reminding visitors of the day that Boston drowned in molasses. The Great Molasses Flood, a perfect storm of corporate negligence, bad engineering, and sticky physics. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. There's always a question to be answered, and I'm always here to ask it. See you next time.